Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about why there's so much infighting in the Manosphere. This is a phenomenon going back years. I can remember people attacking Paul Elam because they said he was too much of an activist and they just wanted to do their own thing. You have Rolly Tommaso versus 21 Studios, Anthony Johnson, Dance Dance Revolution versus Turd Flinging Coper, Greg Adams versus alimony payers and cars, and most importantly, Ben Shapiro versus Riley Dennis. So these are very red pill masculine conflicts, and people say, why? I mean, these are folks who agree on almost everything, and yet they're having these bouts of fisticuffs on the internet.com. The answer is, and for the most part we're talking about the red pill circles, although there have been major conflicts amongst MGTOWs, it has to do with money and fragile egos. Which in the case of the Manosphere, those two things are inseparable, if not the very same, one and together. Initially, the Manosphere, especially prior to YouTube, or at least YouTube monetization, was primarily about people just expressing views online. There were some who actually did make money through consultations or books, but it wasn't the same thing of having this video platform where you're communicating to potentially millions of folks at the same time. And I would argue the Manosphere peaked from 2014 to 2016 because you had the Return of King's website getting a lot of hits, Milo Yiannopoulos with the feminism is cancer stuff, and Donald Trump. And much of the Manosphere assumed Trump was going to overthrow feminism and fix things for them, which was kind of naive from the very beginning, to be honest. But, have hope, I suppose. So 2015, 2016 especially causes this influx of dudes, younger guys who are trying to set up red pill channels, MGTOW channels, to benefit from the growing amount of ad revenue, and even eventually became super chats on live streams. So you end up with a level of market saturation, right? The answer to that can come in a couple of different forms. And we have examples of people who did it the right way. And I'm not going to say they were clever. They were just closer to midlife crises than many others, and so it was easier for them to make the transition. You have Roosh, who was promoting pickup, and then decided as he was nearing 40 to jump on the culture war, traditionalism, radical Christianity, and we have to get after the Care Bears because they're a problem. And he's got some interesting articles. I mean, I enjoy reading them at times. I don't agree with everything. Then you have this guy who was even more successful because he went from Manosphere douchebag to mindset expert to Trump supporter, political journalist, documentary filmmaker, and now he's like trying to promote alternative health. So there are ways to do that. You can potentially diversify. The issue with a lot of red pill people and even MGTOWs is that they don't have much interest outside of red pill and MGTOW, and so what happens is they don't have a way of expanding. It's seldom you meet one of these guys and they're really into history or music, science, but I mean science beyond the kind of layman view of, oh, I can cite this evolution to justify a red pill point. But do you really understand, or are you misusing the concept? And that's something I've seen just abundantly in the Manosphere, people using pseudoscience to make arguments. So if you don't diversify, and you have saturation, there's really only two other options. You can try to double down, and what many of them will do is they form these collectives, they all get on a live stream and promote each other's products. That can be effective, but of course it's also limited because there's so much of this content available. I mean, in fact, I've noticed in the last year and a half, these two red pill channels have popped up, and both of the dudes look the same. They got the whiteboard or something similar, and they're like, yeah, red pill, I'm going to teach you about how to get with women. And yeah, you got younger guys in the comments section, but the saddest part is you see these people who I've noticed commenting for years, like 5 or 6 years, on similar content, going there, amen, brother, that's right. It's like, dude, you've heard all this stuff. Why are you obsessed with hearing it rehashed? And it's because these are folks who are so accustomed to a message that they can't function without it. In fact, and I'll say this much, back when I made some MGTOW content, I would really notice this. I would actually do tests at times. if you made a video about MGTOW, red pill, whatever, feminism, you would get all this reaction. Now, if you did a video that had nothing specifically to do with women or feminism, a lot of these guys would find some way in the comment section to bring women into it because they're so accustomed and programmed to expect that. And it's like, nah. And we'll talk about that as far as expanding one's horizons later on in this video. But if you're not going to double down and just make more videos about single moms or whatever, and you're not going to diversify, your only real option is to radicalize. And this is what some of them will do. So with a red pill, they'll try to appeal to a guy's insecurity about him being a virgin or not getting laid enough. And they'll say, oh, you can just, don't even use game, just go up to the women and say you want to have sex with them, which will get a lot of guys locked up, mind you, but that's what they'll promote. Alternatively, you can try to pursue their nihilism or their rage, and you say stuff like, oh, Islam's going to invade, there's going to be an economic collapse, and women will be begging for protection, they'll be our slaves. That's delusional, but that's another thing they'll promote because they want to make money. Or potentially you can try to claim technology is going to replace women. That's another way to appeal to the rage or vengeance fantasies of a lot of men. But the problem with radicalism is that, number one, if you go too far, you can have legal repercussions yourself, although in the United States you're pretty safe. But more so, it limits your audience eventually, because a lot of people don't want to jump on that extreme bandwagon at a certain point. They're like, this is crazy, see you later. And so you almost have to develop a very core radicalized group of people in order to keep the money train flowing. Now, what happens beyond that, if you still can't make enough, especially for the guys who are doubling down or whatnot, they start turning on one another. And it's very simple. So you think about the characters in general promoting this stuff. Number one, they tend to lie to themselves, right? So they're lying to themselves about their ability to get with women. Many of them can get men, but they can't get women. Or maybe they're lying to themselves and saying, well, see, I just chose not to go after women. In reality, women didn't care about them. And they'll turn around and they'll try to sell to their followers, or rather, before that, they have no issue manipulating or lying to a woman, plying her with alcohol to get in her pants, right? They'll say that's okay. Most of them, by the way, simultaneously are telling you to take the God pill or be a Christian or a Muslim. And then they'll turn around and manipulate and lie to their followers and say, yeah, you can use game, your looks don't really matter, buy my product. So they're already lying to themselves, they're lying to women, they're lying to their followers. How much of a stretch is it for them to begin lying and attacking people they associate with? Not much, to be honest with you. So for all of this, oh yeah, we're Christian men, conservative men, they're essentially amoral when it comes to making money. They'll lead other people into sin, they'll scam and defraud people just to be able to get ahead and continue the money train going. And that's why they attack each other, because it's like, okay, we got this saturation. If I can damage this person's reputation enough, I might be able to grab some of their followers over to my side, even though we agree on almost everything that we discuss. So it is just a bit of a sad reality. But going back to the question of guys who just consume the same content, if you're in an echo chamber of Red Pill or MGTOW and Styx Hexenhammer, Molyneux, Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, you're not really going to grow much as a person as long as you don't challenge yourself with ideas that are totally foreign, that you're not immediately comfortable with. You are going to remain that same person, and you can actually miss out on opportunities to grow. That's why I've always said, all this red pill, MGTOW, black pill should be a first step, but it should not be the end of the line. In other words, use it, extract knowledge, but then go out and challenge yourself through experience, through learning, through personal, overcoming obstacles to become a better person, a better man. And a strong man and a mature man is not one who hides behind everything he wants to believe, but he's always trying and testing his own faith and his own ideas, because that's how you will develop ultimately. So, you want to rage a little bit, look at that stuff for a few months, but then say, okay, Now every week I'm going to look at a different TED Talk video, or I'm going to look into some subject that I'm not really familiar with. I'm going to read at least a book a week, or try to, and I'm not always going to stick to the very same subject. That's how you'll grow as a person, and that's how you'll eventually find that these people are just trying to make money off of your insecurity, your suffering. You're going to leave them behind, and you're going to be a better person for it.